君と出会う前の私にも戻れないねやり直してもきっとここにたどり着くの
As someone who enjoys JRPGs, I feel overwhelmingly lucky to be part of the gaming scene during this massive renaissance of great Japanese games. Chart-topping AAAs like Nier, Persona, and the like have graced us with hours and hours of heavily polished content, and even mid-tier Japanese publishers are starting to put out consistently better games. Akiba's Beat is a sign that this trend will at least continue into the immediate future. The game takes place in Akihabara, Japanese electric town, as did Akiba's Trip, its immediate predecessor. In fact, the Akiba's Beat map is virtually identical. Aside from that and the obvious resemblance in artistic style, there isn't much between the two that remains the same. Akiba's Beat's premise is that Akiba is being overrun by people's delusions. Since the city is so fast moving with its trends, there are segments of people who have held on to specific time periods, and this somehow is forcing the city to be unable to move forward in time. The main character, Asahi, is a NEET who stumbles into his position and carefully navigates his way through events, becoming stronger, building friendships, and growing as a character. In order to fight these delusions, Asahi and his team must enter delusionscapes, essentially dungeons, and kill the Grand Phantasm. This sequence is very similar to the dungeons in Persona that end with characters facing their own personas. Combat takes place within these dungeons with enemies lurking around every corner. Mechanics are similar to Tales of Zestiria, in which you can move directly towards the enemy in front of you and use basic attacks, skills, dodges, items, and such on the fly. The standout mechanic in Akiba's Beat, however, is Imagine Mode, which you can use by charging and activating individual tiers which allow you to do a ludicrous amount of damage to the beat of a song that you can unlock and select. While the game's animations are somewhat clunky, as are most mid-tier Japanese productions, the game can become surprisingly fast-paced once you get into the groove. The game runs brilliantly too. I didn't experience a single bug or hitch during the entire time that I played. As I mentioned earlier, there isn't much to compare between Akiba's Beat and Akiba's Trip. Akiba's Beat is its own game and takes its own spin on the franchise. That being said, there is one very obvious influence for Akiba's Beat: Persona. The game in almost every one of its aspects attempts to mimic Persona. What it lacks, however, is the style and polish that Atlus's Persona franchise is so well known for. One example of this mimicry is the excruciating amount of detail given to each character, especially within their own sub-events which you can complete to learn more about them. Every character feels nuanced and has their own place in Akiba's Beat, regardless of how small their role might be in the grand scheme of things. I don't want to seem like I'm bashing Akiba's Beat for copying Persona though. I think it's great. The developers have clearly learnt what makes the Persona franchise so great and have attempted to duplicate it in their own unique way. This gives Akiba's Beat a strong fundamental backbone that helps it stand up even when the writing or mechanics may feel dull. Overall, Akiba's Beat is great. It doesn't come close to Persona 5 in achieving its goal, and it certainly doesn't have much in common with Akiba's Trip, to maybe some fans' dismay, but it stands on its own 2 feet and delivers an experience that is fun and miles ahead of the quality that fans of Japanese media have come to expect from smaller publications.